This episode is brought to you by Vital Farms. Isn't it bullshit to have to question where your food comes from? At Vital Farms, you can trace your pasture-raised eggs all the way back to the source, the pasture. On the side of each pasture-raised carton of eggs, you'll find the name of the farm where your eggs were laid. And when you look the farm up on their website, you'll get a peek at all the sunshine, fresh air, and open space the hens enjoy. Learn more and find out where to buy them at vitalfarms.com. Vital Farms, keeping it bullshit-free.
This episode is brought to you by Klaviyo, the platform that powers smarter digital relationships. With Klaviyo, you can activate all your customer data in real time, connect seamlessly with your customers across all channels, guide your marketing strategy with AI-powered insights, recommendations, and automated assistance, deliver experiences that feel individually designed at scale, and grow your business faster. Power smarter digital relationships with Klaviyo. Learn more at klaviyo.com/Spotify. That's KLAVIYO.com/Spotify.
Welcome to the Human Capital Innovations Podcast, your go-to source for personal, professional, and organizational growth and development. We hope you tune in often for all things people management, organizational development and change, organizational leadership, and social impact related. Maximize your personal and organizational potential with Human Capital Innovations Podcast. Welcome to the Human Capital Innovations Podcast. In this HCI podcast episode, I share my recent presentation with Summer Valente, HCI Contributor, at the Ashoka Exchange conference on April 17th. The title of our presentation was Expanding Our Vision of Social Impact.
Okay, here we go. So we're going to jump right in. The reason we proposed having this conversation kind of grew out of a conversation that started at the it might have started before, but I was a part of it in the 2019 Ashoka conference. It was kind of this ad hoc group that just came together to meet at the end of one of the days in San Diego, and it was kind of having this conversation about how do we expand our vision of social impact. It might not have been, there's lots of different terminology that we use: social enterprise, social entrepreneurship, social innovation. But it was kind of around these kind of pieces of, are there pieces that we're ignoring or need to be included in this bigger conversation? And we have adopted a new framework, which we'll talk about today. So anyways, we just wanted to continue the conversation from last year. So my name is Summer Valente. I am the director of the Center for Social Impact at Utah Valley University. And I have my colleague John with me on the call today.
I'm John Westover. I'm the academic director of the Center for Social Impact. I'm an associate professor of organizational leadership in the Woodbury School of Business at Utah Valley University, where I teach organizational development and change management, human resource management, ethics, and those sorts of courses. And I've been working with Summer in the center for a long time.
Awesome. So we know this is a conversation, but we wanted to go through kind of just a little spiel about what we're doing. So we want to give you some context for our community and our university, because it's important in how we kind of frame the social impact at our university. Then we'll talk about the framework and what we've been doing on our campus. And then we want to, obviously the majority of the time, be a discussion. And we really want to answer any of your questions first. We have a couple of prepared questions if we get to them, but we really just want to hear from the group. So John's going to start us off with the context.
And I'll go through this pretty quickly. In a nutshell, Utah Valley University is housed in a very unique place culturally. and it's a very conservative place. In terms of demographics, it's very white, 89% white, a little under 11% Hispanic. It's very young. Median age is a little bit under 25, and so much of the population is under the age of 18. So our public schools, our universities are all growing and expanding, while perhaps that's not the case in a lot of other parts of the country. 1/3 of all growth in 2019 was in Utah County, where Utah Valley University is housed. And Utah ranks second in the nation for job growth. And so we have, in addition to high birth rate in the state, we have a lot of in-migration with people coming for tech jobs and other sorts of entrepreneurial endeavors along Silicon Slopes.
There we go.
As I alluded to, we're very conservative. Utah is very red, and within one of the reddest states in the country, Utah County is the reddest part of Utah. So we've only supported a Democrat for president 9 times since 1896. The last time we supported one was a very long time ago in 1964, the most Republican county, as I mentioned. And so in a place like Utah County, words like social change, anything related to social justice, these are all dirty words. These are taboos that the average person wouldn't dare say or wouldn't be comfortable affiliating with because of the very conservative culture that we're in. In terms of Utah Valley University, we're the largest public university in the state, a little under 42,000 students. We're dual mission. So that means that there is no other community college in the area. So we serve both a community college function and a comprehensive university function, from certificates of proficiency all the way up through master's degrees. A little under 40% of our students are first generation students. Most of our students work a significant amount. There's about 40% tend to be married. They have children. These are very busy students who are juggling a lot of different things as they're continuing their education. So back 27 years ago, the Volunteer and Service Learning Center, or rather before the center, Volunteer Services was founded on UVU campus. And from those humble beginnings, we've grown a lot over this past 27 years. In 2001, we became the Volunteer and Service Learning Center. I joined campus in 2009 when it was still the Volunteer and Service Learning Center. And my role with directing academic service learning initiatives and the social impact initiative started a couple years after I came to campus. Summer then joined us, 5 years ago, Summer?
7.
7 years, wow. So Summer joined us 7 years ago. And during that time, we were having so many discussions about really how we needed to shift our strategic understanding of our role in the community, how we needed to adjust our framing of service and volunteering and service learning, and how we could have a bigger, more substantial impact in our community. So it was quite the process, but we were successful in changing the name of the center in 2018 to the Center for Social Impact, with a brand new strategic framework and a much more comprehensive approach to how we're trying to tackle social problems, and Summer's going to talk about that here in just a minute. We are unique on campus that we're really the only functioning academic affairs and student affairs partnership for this kind of an initiative. I report up through academic affairs in the Office of Engaged Learning, and I oversee all the academic service learning programming. And Summer reports up through student affairs and student life and VPs on that side. We're a very successful partnership. We've been tight-knit for years and years. Since I've been involved, I've seen that tight partnership. We coordinate between the curricular, co-curricular, and extracurricular activities for students very successfully. And really, I believe we're a model for our campus in terms of successful academic and student affairs partnerships.
Okay, so I'm going to jump into the framework. And something that we like to point out too is how we sit in between those two different divisions. We're not beholden to any particular school, where we can really be that kind of interdisciplinary space on campus. So our mission is to develop active citizens who make social impact in our communities. And our definition of social impact is a significant positive change that addresses a pressing community-identified social issue in a sustainable and just way. And this is a working definition, but this is where we're at right now when we're defining this for our students. And our framework basically combines kind of these two models of thinking. This is the pathways of social impact. That's what we call them. They were developed by kind of a working group that Stanford University was a big part of, Berkeley. Stanford calls them the pathways of public service. They really don't care what other people call them. They really are interested in kind of framing this work in these pathways. And so when we discovered these many years ago, we were really excited about how clearly they outline these different pathways, the ways that we really make this impact in our community. So the pathways are direct service, community engaged learning and research, social entrepreneurship and corporate social responsibility, policy and governance, community organizing and activism, and philanthropy. And when I'm talking with students and kind of introducing these concepts, it's really an easy way for them to grasp the many ways that they can address any social issue in a variety of ways. I like to say we're never going to volunteer our way out of hunger. Do we need volunteers at the food bank? Yes, we need that direct service going on. But we also need to create policies. We also need people to be donating money. We need to research what's going on. Where are food deserts? All of these pathways really have to work together in order to make that final impact. And it's like I said, students really respond well to these pathways, and it really helps break it down so that they can see themselves as where they can kind of play in this role. The other model that we've combined in this framework is the active citizen continuum, and this was developed by a nonprofit organization called Breakaway, and they kind of developed these 4 stages of citizenship, where you're a member, not very concerned with your role in social problems, a volunteer, well-intentioned, but maybe not educated about social issues, moving to a conscientious citizen. They're really starting to be concerned about discovering those root causes, asking why, and then all the way up to a citizen, active citizen, where community really is a priority in their life, and they're willing to look at kind of those systemic changes that need to be made. So what we did is we put these 2 frameworks, or these 2 models on axes, and what we decided to do is we want to develop programming that helps students move through the continuum all the way across all of the pathways. So that's kind of what's been driving how we frame everything in the center. We can kind of trace our roots, right, our volunteer and service learning into those first 2 pathways, and it's been a really great experience to kind of expand the way we see things and the way that we can get students involved in a variety of different ways. So everything that we offer in the center, whether it's legacy kind of events or things that we're developing in the future, they're all aligning with this framework. So since we implemented this framework, we've rebranded our center, obviously. We've introduced the pathways to campus. One of the ways that we did that, we put this pop-up museum together for our Martin Luther King commemoration. And it was a great way. We illustrated the civil rights movement through the pathways. And so we set up these displays, and the response was so positive. Students loved being able to break down a huge movement into these pathways, and that was one of the ways we kind of introduced it. We are mapping all of our programs, community partners, courses, all of our programming to it as well. We're developing our assessment strategy, and we've launched some new programs within this framework. We have something called the SIM Lab, our Social Impact Metrics Lab, Social Impact Incubators, and just everything that we are designing and developing, we put onto that framework so students can understand how they can make that impact, and it helps us just really kind of cement in their minds how they can make a difference.
All right, so that brings us to the point where we want to open it up. As Summer mentioned, we're just so excited about having a comprehensive way that we can help students and faculty and community partners all collectively understand the complexities and nuances in a broader social system and political and economic system that these cross influences that make it so difficult to actually drive change in our communities. So as we use this sort of framework and have these discussions and plan our programming and our events and our courses and our projects, it gives us a real good grounding and helps everyone to be conversant with the same kind of baseline understanding of where we're starting from, to be able to address community identified needs, to be able to lean on the lived expertise of community partners, and to be able to augment, with the skill sets that we bring to the table from, the faculty side and from what the students are learning in their disciplines on campus for curricular, co-curricular, and extracurricular offerings. So we want to open it up now for any of your questions, thoughts, comments. And then depending on time, we have some questions that we've also prepared that we can pose for discussion, but we'll start with all of you.
I might ask a question. It's Nancy Marlette. I'm from Calgary, Alberta.
Hi, Nancy.
And, it's wonderful to see the way you've created this matrix management system. I used to really value that kind of stuff, but my life got a lot more chaotic, I'm afraid. But one of the things I was interested in is it seems like you're really well organized inside the university. And I'm just wondering how you've managed to bring community collaborators in, and do you invest in them in terms of training them to be part of this?
Yeah, great question. Do you want to tackle that first, Summer?
Sure. We have a partnerships coordinator that is a member of our staff in the Center for Social Impact. And so she helps recruit community partners, train them, retain them. She helps put on events with our service learning faculty to kind of make those connections with them as well. So right now, she's currently mapping all of our community partners with them to those pathways, so we can see where maybe there are gaps in our partnerships that we could develop further, or help them kind of develop more opportunities beyond what they've usually seen us as, either volunteering or service learning, helping them kind of expand their perspective into, oh, you mean I could use a student to help, get signatures for a petition? Awesome, that's policy and governance. So helping broaden their perspective as well as to how they could engage students in what they're doing.
Okay, so that you see the partnerships, the collaborators, as being the associations, agencies, groups within the community, rather than individuals who are able to teach students and those kinds of things. Is that right? That
was my perspective. Yeah. John, do you want to address? I mean, we have on-campus partnerships as well that we work across divisions, and like we mentioned, our partnership with academic affairs is very strong, and so faculty members are obviously a large part of that as well.
Yeah.
No, I wasn't referring to faculty. I'm talking about individuals from the community who are really interested in this, and how you use them in terms of training your students. Because I really saw in that continuum the opening for that, you know.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think on the curricular side, it just depends. So we have, for example, in the courses that I teach, where we do these types of projects, we do work with community organizations, nonprofits, agencies, whatever, and the students work on consulting projects. In my discipline, they're working on organizational development and change management types of projects for these organizations. And I bring in guest speakers, experts from the community, from local businesses who have specialty in, you know, whatever type of specific thing the students might be working on with that partner organization. And so some faculty do that quite a bit, some do that a little bit, and some don't do it at all. We definitely encourage faculty to utilize the expertise within the community. And I think that we would say the same thing for the extracurricular and co-curricular offerings as well.
Okay.
Yeah, one of our biggest emphases to our students is we work with community identified needs. So we always are listening to the community and doing what needs to be done there.
Yeah, and to add to what Summer said about our community partners, we do have tiered levels of partnership so that as organizations want to partner with the Center for Social Impact, there's tiers, so they agree to certain levels of commitment and involvement with us and with the students. They receive training, and so that's been quite effective in creating more tie and buy-in to what they're doing and what we're doing with the center. What Summer also mentioned, though, is also true, that I think historically a lot of these community partners don't always recognize how we can utilize different pathways to approach the challenges that they're trying to face, right? So you have a nonprofit that's focused on adult literacy issues, for example, and they may be really used to trying to get volunteers to be tutors, to do reading tutoring, but they may not be thinking about having faculty expertise and student expertise and corporate expertise from the community to help them develop and assess their training, to help them understand their data analytics and some of those types of things. So, and we can look across all the pathways to help them better understand how they can tackle the social problems that they're facing. So that's something we definitely have been trying to do.
Yeah, thank you.
We had time to get into all of our programming, but
yeah. We do have a question in the chat box, so I'll go ahead and read this. As students go through this pathway of social impact, what happens after university with them? Do you have a follow-up of how they engage in these different areas, public policy, philanthropy, activism, etc.? That's a great question.
That is an excellent question. Yeah, that's definitely something that we're continuing to develop and explore. I actually attended the careers session earlier this morning. I think part of our curriculum that we're designing for our social impact certificate and minor involves bringing practitioners into the classroom so that they can start to make those connections. And then I would love to collaborate with the internship office and really help kind of put some good framework around those opportunities, because right now it's not something it's a high priority for our internship office, I would say. But I think it's something that students are more and more interested in, for sure. And so we definitely want to help in that transition to career. And we're hoping as we get this curriculum approved out of our center that we can really start to contribute to, the progress of the field, where people are recognizing that this is something that you want to study and can get a degree and a job in and progress. And then we also have plans. We haven't done anything yet, but plans to involve alumni as we move forward in a variety of different ways. We feel like just like how students and community partners can kind of see themselves in these pathways, that it'll be really helpful framework to engage alumni in as well.
Another question, Nancy asks, what is an internship? Is this a paid contract or an experiential learning agreement?
Oh, internships can be
Yeah.
whatever you want to make them, right?
Yeah. I think it depends on what we're talking about at the university. Generally speaking, at the university, most students do paid internships with an employer where they have a signed agreement between a supervisor, the student, and a lead faculty member at the university with specific learning outcomes from the projects that they're doing as part of the internship. So it's this experiential learning opportunity where they often get paid, sometimes not. So that's an internship. But a lot of times what we've seen is that students who are involved in these social impact projects or these service learning projects with organizations as part of their coursework, where they're doing free projects, they're not getting paid for them, that oftentimes those experiences then lead to paid internships or to paid job offers after the course is over. And so that's something that we're really proud of, to see that kind of a positive professional impact for students as they go through these various experiential learning opportunities.
Jim McKinley, I'm in NC. I'm a connector and been involved with Ashoka for quite a while.
Mm-hmm.
I really also enjoyed your continuum and think it's well designed. Make verbally a brief reference to systemic change. I didn't see it on your continuum, systemic. And I just wondered how you position systemic change, which really is the ultimate impact, in my view, and whether you look at it that way, how you position it in your curriculum.
Yeah, we try to approach everything from a systems perspective. And so we see, for example, the 6 pathways as different pieces of the system, right? And so we want to look cohesively and holistically at social problems from a systems approach. We also do a lot with equity design thinking and try to incorporate that into our courses and programming and experiences for students. Really, we don't want students coming away from involvement with the center thinking, service is fun, I'm going to go do some more service and that will solve all the world's problems. Now, if they want to do service and they think it's fun, that's great, but that's not going to solve all the world's problems. And so we need to be much more comprehensive in our approaches. And as we try to educate the students about the framework and about systems thinking and about equity design thinking and these sorts of approaches, we found some good success. And the students get really excited about it because they start to, millennials and Gen Z students, they want to make an impact in the world, and they don't want to wait until, later in their career to do it. They want to do it now. And so when students see that they have the tools to do it, they get really excited. And that leads into some of our other programs like the Sim Lab and the social impact incubators and some of those sorts of things where students have the opportunity to pitch projects, get funding to carry out the projects and those sorts of things.
Yeah, it's really embedded in everything we do. And that continuum, I think something that's a little different about it is that we're focusing on the person and their development, developing a student into an active citizen. So I would hope that, if they reach that point, they would fully understand what systems are, how to address them, and understand these levers of the pathways to really make those changes.
Yeah. It looks like we're almost out of time. We do have another question in the chat window, so I'll pose that real quick. Okay. Do you have or have you developed social impact measurement tools, models, indicators? Great question. We're always working on that. We do have various assessment tools that we have used in the past. It depends on what type of outcomes you're wanting to focus on, right? You could have economic development instruments. You could have attitudinal change. If you're talking about the political pathway, there's all sorts of different things that can be used, and we're always trying to identify different existing measurement tools and assessment tools, but we're also trying to develop them. And one of the things that we do in our sim lab, the social impact metrics lab, is that we work with partner organizations like local nonprofits to try to help them identify what their objectives are, what data they have, where the gaps are in terms of the data they have versus what they need to really know if they're accomplishing the objectives that they have. And then we help them to establish mechanisms to collect the needed data, to assess that data, and have that feed back into how they run their programming and their offerings, right, for the services that they provide. So that's something we're always working on, and I know that this is something that everyone's very interested in. I'm not aware of anyone having cracked that nut completely, and there's really no silver bullet to it. It just so much depends on what the specific issue is and the specific types of outcomes that you're wanting to measure. But there's lots of methodologies that can be utilized. Nancy asks,
I just went to the view.
Nancy asks, how are you changing what you call a conservative political culture? We're not changing the political culture per se, but we're working well within it. And so that's really, as we were trying to rebrand the center and incorporate the pathways, we had to do that within this context, and we understood that some terminology would be a non-starter. Like, people just would distance themselves. University administrators would distance themselves. There'd be funding implications. Partner organizations, individuals in the community would not want to associate with us unless we framed things in a way that they could get behind. And so there's a lot of strategic thinking behind the approach we took to get university buy-in to how we've rebranded the center and changed the name and our new pathways and strategic framework. And that's an ongoing battle, but I feel like we're doing pretty well with it. Do you want to add anything to that, Summer?
Yeah, we basically had to sell it that we're teaching students how to do this work. They get to determine for what social issue and from what perspective. We obviously teach ethics and values and those kinds of layers to make sure that it's, in the right direction. But we really emphasize those, that we're teaching the how students engage, and we're not evangelizing or pushing a certain agenda necessarily, because of our culture on campus. That was the only way we would be able to make this happen. When we told our colleagues around the state that we were going for the name Social Impact, the Center for Social Impact, they laughed at us. They said, "You're never going to get that." They was like, "Do you know where your university is located?" And we said, "Yep, we're going to do it." So those kind of strategic conversations that John mentioned is how we were able to convince them.
Sounds like everyone a change maker.
Kind of.
I think so. Yep.
Like everyone.
Yep. Well, thank you so much for participating and staying with us these last few minutes.
Yes, thanks everyone. We know we're over time. We will share the slides. I think Summer may have already done that in the present. Oh, I'm not sure here, but I know in the program, the slides are there in the app. And by all means, we would love to talk with anyone offline, so feel free to contact us. We could set up meetings, after the fact, after the conference, and we would love to have the opportunity to continue the discussion.
Yeah, thank you.
Great work.
Great.
Thank you.
Share your emails in the chat box with everyone before they go, in case folks have questions. Thank you so much, Jonathan.
Thank you.
Yep. Thanks, everyone. Have a great evening.
Have a wonderful evening. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thanks again for joining us for this episode of the Human Capital Innovations Podcast. I hope you stay healthy and safe and that you have a great week. Check out our new weekly LinkedIn newsletter, Alchemizing Human Capital, exploring industry trends via original research and interviews with executives and thought leaders from across the globe. We look forward to having you join us.